Ben Paton, chartered accountant, investment management professional, fund manager, and more recently local campaigner. You've lived in the area for about 10 years, but why now have you decided to stand as a Conservative councillor?
I've decided to stand now because we face a very specific, once-in-a-decade problem, and it is that a developer has purchased some land right in the heart of our ward and wishes to develop it into a new town. It's not the first time that people have tried to develop this site. There was a public inquiry in the 1980s and people got together and stopped that, and I suppose every generation has to fight the battle again, and it's fallen to us, to me, to stand up and make sure that the facts about this site in this ward are properly presented.
It's a proposal for 2,000 plus houses on the former Wisley Airfield, or Three Farms Meadows as it's now known, and it's being trailed as a new town to answer the housing problem. Is this a practical proposition?
No, we don't think it is a practical proposition. We think it's very impractical. We think that the motivation and the logic for promoting this as a new town is driven entirely by self-interest. The new owners have a massive incentive to develop the land. If they can change the use of the land, they stand to make hundreds of millions of pounds. And that's why they're pushing it so hard. The facts don't support the proposal. The facts are that the transport infrastructure is completely insufficient, that there are no services or facilities of any form on or even near the site, and there are no school facilities, for example. And these facts ought to have been put by Guildford Borough Council, but in fact haven't been put by Guildford Borough Council because it has come up with a housing need for the borough which is inflated. And it's a circular argument, because if you inflate the number of houses that are needed, you create a justification, in our view, a bogus justification for building on the green belt.
The Wisley proposal seems to be far more specific than many of the outline proposals in the draft local plan. What do we know about the people behind this project?
We know that this land was, for hundreds of years, owned by the Ockham Park estate. We know that it was commandeered during the war for a grass airstrip. We know that it was sold back to the owner of the Ockham Park estate in 1980. And we know that for a long time it was in the agricultural land portfolio of a life insurance company. Most recently, in 2012, it was sold to an offshore company based in the Cayman Islands, and our understanding is that that company is controlled by two principal parties. One of them is a London-based hedge fund called Rad Capital, and the other, we understand, is a Russian property speculator.
You're a found member of the Guildford Green Belt Group. Are there any circumstances in which the Green Belt could or should be developed?
Yes, of course there are. The Green Belt isn't completely sacrosanct, but on the other hand, it was originally intended to be permanent, and permanent means permanent. However, the law provides for the Green Belt to be built on in very special circumstances. In fact, the expression used in the law is that, or in the current national planning policy framework, the expression used is exceptional circumstances. So if you can show exceptional circumstances, you can change Green Belt boundaries. Now, in our view, they haven't come close to showing exceptional circumstances. Exceptional circumstances have been defined in the Court of Appeal, and the definition is really rather stringent. And it isn't really up to Guildford Borough Council to define the meaning of the words. It is up to Guildford Borough Council, on the other hand, to set out what it considers to be its exceptional circumstances, and it hasn't really yet done that.
You're painting a picture of a local council with a rather laid-back approach to proposing a local draft local plan. Are these issues being properly addressed, do you think?
There are a lot of very surprising features about this draft local plan. It has a number of shortcomings that were pointed out before it was issued for consultation. It was foreshadowed by a thing called the Issues and Options document, and that was put out to public consultation as well. And among the surprising features have been that, for example, the public feedback on the issues and options paper had not really been properly addressed. The clear and unambiguous mistakes in the estimation of housing need, which essentially derived from the demographic statistics, have been pointed out and have been confirmed in writing by the Office for National Statistics, and yet Guildford Borough Council didn't revise the strategic housing market assessment numbers for housing need before issuing this local plan. So it is as if the horse has got the bit between its teeth and is determined to gallop on, regardless of what the writer thinks.
Lovelace currently has a population of around 2,600 or so people, which could obviously increase by 300 or even 400% if the draft local plan in its current form is ever adopted. Is this an inevitability, or can something be done about it?
No, it's very far from inevitable. This is only a draft. It's going out to consultation. The case is made that it's an inevitability, of course, by the people who are promoting it, and this is a form of marketing. You make the massive presupposition that, of course, that tie looks very good on you, sir, and you should buy it. And the doctor tells you with great conviction that, of course, you do need your tonsils out, in my professional opinion. And Guildford Borough Council makes the case that, of course, this is the only local plan that we can adopt. It's simply not true, and it's not inevitable, and there are many steps that have to be undertaken and which are required by law, and which have not yet been undertaken or completed.
You talked earlier on a bit about local infrastructure. It's quite clear that a new town in particular, but massive redevelopment in general, would need more schools, hospitals, doctors' surgeries, and of course roads. Are these issues being properly addressed?
No, we don't think they have been addressed, and it's important to put this new town idea in context. There are only 1,000 houses in this ward. Most of them are in Ripley. It's proposed to put over 2,000 houses on the site, on this agricultural land that they wish to turn into a new town. So the scale of development is huge. We think that the local infrastructure is already at capacity. If we take transport, we know that the A3 is at or near capacity. The surrounding roads are already very congested, especially in the rush hour. We know that there is a real and present shortage of school places for school children, and it's very hard to see how a new town can do anything except make the current situation worse.
You've also criticised the local council for a lack of openness and transparency. Do you think you can do much to improve matters?
Yes, I think local councillors, borough councillors, have put a lot of trust in the council executive and have gone along with this draft local plan on the basis that at some stage they would have an opportunity to adjust it. And so the argument ran that we must send this draft out for consultation, and when we get the consultation feedback, at that point we can sharpen our pencils and edit it. I think that many borough councillors are now questioning and are learning more about the obvious shortcomings in the draft local plan, and are now much less trustful of the executive that they're going to get a proper opportunity to change the draft local plan. So I think one of the things that will be proposed in due course is a change of the style of government of the borough council from an executive system to a committee system. Committee systems were the way borough councils always used to be run, and the Localism Act that was passed relatively recently in 2011 now allows the electorate, if they sign a petition that gets 5% that's signed by 5% of the electors, allows the electorate to force a referendum on the method of government. And I suspect that borough councillors will probably change method of government of their own volition before the petition actually reaches its target.
Lovelace Ward consists of Ripley, Ockham and Wisley. What are your messages to residents of each community?
Well, everybody in Ripley knows that the number one issue on a daily basis is traffic congestion. In the morning, if there are any problems on the A3, it's quite possible to have a tailback that passes for the length of a mile or more all the way through Ripley. So Ripley residents are very conscious that there simply isn't the capacity on our roads to build a new town that might put 4,000 more cars on the road. And what I would submit to residents of Ripley is that the A3 is not a local road in the following sense. It's controlled by a national agency, the Highways Agency, over which Guildford Borough Councillor has no direct power. And motorways cost £30 million a mile. So Guildford Borough Council does not have it in its power to improve the transport capacity on the A3 without the collaboration of national government. So I think that the people of Ripley have to think very carefully about a new town. The people of Wisley are largely represented by the Royal Horticultural Society, which owns a lot of Ripley. And the Royal Horticultural Society needs to consider both its commercial interests, but also the interests of the wider community, and needs to think about how this area might be changed forever if a new town is built. And the people of Ockham are already very conscious that building a new town in the heart of their parish is likely to change the character of the area forever and for the worse.
What other burning issues face the Lovelace electorate at this time then?
I think the local plan is the issue. I think if the local plan was to be adopted, it would be a disaster for this area. I'm confident it won't be adopted because I think its shortcomings are becoming ever more apparent as more people look at it. But if we put the local plan aside and we think about what borough councillors are responsible for delivering, borough councillors deliver things like social housing, of which there is a clear shortage. They look after parking, they collect the rates, and they look after planning applications. Some of the biggest problems in this area are in fact the responsibility of the county council. So schools are a county council responsibility, and local roads are a county council responsibility. So whoever gets the job of being the borough councillor for this ward needs to collaborate closely with the county councillor for the ward to ensure that the roads and the school issues are properly addressed.
So on a final note then, Ben Paton, why should the residents of Ripley, Wisley and Ockham, the Lovelace Ward, vote for you?
Well, I think I've put a lot of time and effort into understanding the issues, into reading the mountains of documentation that the local plan is accompanied by. I've gone down to Millmead and I've spoken for a number of petitions. So I think if you look at the candidates for election, I think that I am one of the strongest, if not the strongest contender in terms of having informed themselves about the local plan. I'm a local man. I've lived here for 10 years. My family lived here since the 1930s. I've known the area all my life and I have its interests at heart.
Ben Paton, Ockham resident, Lovelace candidate, thank you very much.
Thank you.